think it's in here. Nope. That's mine. All right. Thank you. No, that's not.
How are you?
Peachy, how about you?
Two.
Two. They're small. Thank you, dear.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Oh, thank you. Man, he doesn't ask
They don't.
enough to cover this one. Wow. Thank you very much.
Oh, aren't you?
No,
Happy
just-
Valentine's. Thank you, ma'am. I'm fine with one. Thank you so very much. Very kind of you. I better pay attention to what I'm supposed to be doing over here.
Oh, I love
Take a
these.
couple, take a couple.
Oh, thank you so much.
How are you? You can count on me, right? Yeah. I will. Thank you so much.
I'm good, thank you. I appreciate it.
Oh, hey, thank you. Thanks, you too.
Ooh, sure. Thank you so much. Oh my gosh, these.
Better show her and see how it would talk to it well.
So essentially, what I'm getting from this is it's all on home.
Mhm.
42 days.
No.
It's on his home property.
At the end. Okay, can I see that here?
I didn't even.
That's fine.
That's why we were all kind of like.
Mhm.
So when I contacted him, we're not changing anything. In fact, we just feel like he's a great length. Make sure that whenever you use the
Mhm.
and that code and you're saying-
Are we short people? I can't see. Where's the
All the
job?
chairs seem to be used,
Go get your money.
but that wasn't up here.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Find them for
So there's two there.
Good afternoon.
Doesn't make
I'd like to welcome everybody. Thank you. This is the code board meeting. And we're called to order. Bobby, would you call the roll, please?
Miss Wade,
Present.
Mrs. Archer, here. Mr. Weeks,
Here.
Mr. Kramer is absent. Ms. Norfleet,
Here.
Mrs. Telliar, here. Mr. Porfirio,
Here.
Mr. Stamets.
Here.
That completes your roll call, ma'am.
Thank you. Erica is our board attorney for today, and she'll lead us in the invocation and in the Pledge of Allegiance.
We gather here today with intent on doing good work. We seek to represent fairly and well those who have given us this task. We meet to serve the city of Tarpon Springs, use our resources wisely and well, to represent all members of our community fairly, and to make decisions that promote the common good. We recognize our responsibility to the past and the future, and the rights and needs of both individuals and community. As trusted servants, we seek blessings on our deliberations and on our efforts here today. We thank our Heavenly Father. Amen.
Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'll give a brief overview of the hearing procedures. It is the intention of this board to promote, protect, and improve the health, safety, and welfare of the citizens of Tarpon Springs by providing an equitable, effective, and inexpensive method of enforcing various codes within the city of Tarpon Springs. Any aggrieved party may appeal a final administrative order of this board to the circuit court. Such appeal shall be filed within 30 days of the execution of the order to be appealed. Florida Statute 286.0105 requires any party appealing a decision of this board to have a record of the proceedings to support such an appeal. The procedure of this board is as follows. First, the city presents its witnesses and exhibits, after which the alleged violator is able to ask the city's witnesses any specific questions regarding their testimony. Secondly, the alleged violator is allowed to make a presentation and present his or her witnesses and exhibits. Then the city can question the alleged violator's witnesses. After both rounds of testimony, both on the part of the city and on the part of the alleged violator, each party is asked to give a closing argument, first by the city and then by the alleged violator. After those three steps are taken, the board will close the public hearing portion of the case to discuss it and take appropriate action. Before we begin the public hearings, we will have all potential witnesses stand and be sworn in by the secretary of the board, and a reminder to please turn off your cell phones. Since we also have Zoom on today, anybody that's on Zoom will be also asked to be sworn in. Mr. Jump, is anyone here today ahead of time?
We do have several people who are on the public attendance at this time. We are trying to connect in one for one of the items that will be later.
Okay, we can swear them in at that time if we need to. If you're here to provide testimony, would you stand please and raise your right hand? She'll swear you in. And if you're on Zoom, we're trusting that you have your hand raised at home. Thank you.
Do you swear the testimony you're about to give is the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
I do. Thank you. Are there any changes to the agenda today?
No, ma'am.
Thank you.
Oh,
Item number,
I apologize. Yes, ma'am. Kate, number 3 is complied,
yes,
and so we won't be bringing that forward.
thank you. Then we'll start with case number 1. It is number 20-8000694, 724 Seminole Boulevard, ERC Homes Capital, Gerald D. Ellenberg. Is anyone present for this item? Is anyone on Zoom for this item?
If anyone is attending via Zoom for this item, please raise your hand and you'll be allowed in to talk. And we do not have any raised hands for this item.
Thank you. In that case, nobody will have any legal objection to the city's evidence. We'll accept that and the city can begin.
Okay, my name is Beth Hughes. I'm the City Code Inspector certified by the Florida Association of Code Enforcement. This is case number 20-800000694 for 724 Seminole Boulevard, ERC Homes Capital LLC with Gerald Ellenberg as the registered agent. Exhibit 1 contains all the photos. Exhibit 2 contains all the notices to include the notice of violation and notice of hearings. Exhibit 3 includes the administration documents to include the case summary, property appraiser, and tax collector records. Exhibit 4 is the affidavit of posting and the copy of the sign. All of the photographs and exhibits were given to the violator are exact copies of what is being presented to the board. All notices were mailed to the property owner of record as determined by the Pinellas County Property Appraiser and Tax Collector databases. All notice of violations and notice of hearings are sent return receipt requested and first-class mail. Please accept all the exhibits into the record as evidence.
Thank you. Bobby, you'll do so, please.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I'll go ahead and pull up the pictures.
Thank you.
Okay. So on 11/16/2020 was the initial inspection, and I found there was a large amount of vegetative debris. Mailbox on 724 is on the ground. There was a large pole in the driveway. The house was not secure because the window was open. The brick wall had a large crack. The utility box was falling off the wall and hanging by wires. And there was also debris in the yard. So this is one of the pictures of the crack in the wall. This was trash and debris by the front door. And the strange thing about this property, this is unusual, but it does occur occasionally, is one parcel. This is one parcel with actually 2 homes on it. There is some of the palm vegetative debris. That was just the window that was open. More vegetative debris. That's where there's the piling in the driveway. The mailbox just against the tree. That's the picture where the cable box is hanging by wires. There's a closer up of it. More piles of debris and another large pile of debris. So it happened to be while I was there. I was there a long time because I called the police to make sure that the property could be secured before I left and no one had gotten in through the open window. There was concern by the complainant that people might be squatting in the property. They did not find anyone. So while I was there, the lawn maintenance company came and gave me the owner's number and stated that the window had never been opened before. And I also gave him my card. On 11/17/2020, the notice of violation was mailed and we did not receive any return mail. On 12/4/2020, we conducted a reinspection. There was vegetative debris in the yard, the piling still in the driveway, the wall still cracked, basically no change. On 12/7/2020, a final notice of violation was mailed and no mail was returned. On January 25th of 2021, I conducted another reinspection. The mailbox wasn't on the ground anymore, but was leaning into the tree with debris around it. There were still 2 large vegetative piles of debris, and the exterior was in the same condition. On January 26th of 2021, the notice of hearing was mailed, and that was returned delivered. On January 29th, 2021, a sign was posted, and the affidavit of posting was signed. On February 2021, a final inspection was conducted. The pole in the driveway had been removed. The mailbox had been removed. The box hanging by the wires had been removed, and large debris piles were still present, and the exterior wall was still in a dilapidated condition. I did check with the building department and just to see if there was any concerns about the wires and the boxes that were hanging by the front door. And they said they did not consider it a safety issue. It was low voltage wires. So with the condition of the property now is basically there's still vegetative piles of debris. The box that was hanging by the wires has been removed. And there's still large cracks in the decorative wall, or the retaining wall, I should say, I guess, that's around the property. And one final thing to note is just that we were contacted by the property owner. He apparently had been in the hospital, so he had just gotten notice of some of these items. It does appear that he has done some work, and some of the items have been brought into or have been improved. So, and I was kind of surprised he wasn't here today. But long story short, what we're asking the board to find is that the property owner is in violation of 8-52 for the nuisance prohibitions, 8-40 for the duty to maintain private property, 6-1, the city code that adopts the International Property Maintenance Code, and IPMC 304.1, which is the general exterior of the structure. And that concludes my testimony.
Anybody have any questions for her since the homeowner's not here? Do you know if the homeowner lives in that home? It's not homesteaded.
No, ma'am, they're both vacant.
Pardon?
That's one parcel with two homes on it, and both homes are vacant, I believe. One had a lockbox on it, and the other, like I said, the police did go inside because of the open window to make sure nobody was squatting in there, and they appeared to be both vacant.
But you, no response to your notices directly from them?
He did finally reach out and spoke to Brian, the code enforcement clerk, and he did say that he was working on getting to a resolution. So he is aware of the violations now, and I honestly thought he was going to be present today.
And did he give you any idea of how long it might take him to remediate the issues?
He indicated that he would need about 10 days, which was 8 days ago. I believe he's going to need longer than that to address that wall. I personally, if it were my opinion, to get everything in compliance, I would say probably 45 to 60 days would be much more reasonable than 10.
Thank you.
And we're looking at 1116 right to 210.
I'm
The
sorry.
dates, we're looking at the dates from 1116 to 210, 2021. The dates of noncompliance so far.
This would just be to find them in violation and give him a deadline to come into compliance.
Right.
It's not a repeat violator.
Okay.
Would anyone like to make a motion?
Yep.
Please.
I move based on the testimony, evidence, and facts presented in the law that at the time of the alleged violations, sections City Code 8-52, City Code 8-40, City Code 6-1, and IMPC 304.1 of the City Code of Ordinance of the City of Tarpon Springs was in force and effect. The respondent was in violation thereof.
Second. I second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Stammes,
Yes.
Mr. Favidio,
Yes.
Mrs. Telliar,
Yes.
Mrs. Norfleet,
Yes.
Mr. Weeks,
Yes.
Mrs. Archer,
Yes.
Ms. Wade.
Yes. Like to hear a second motion?
I move that the respondent shall have until April 16th to bring the property into compliance with code sections City Code 8-52, City Code 8-40, City Code 6-1, and IPMC 304.1, or suffer a fine of $25 per day for each day thereafter the respondent remains in violation of said codes.
I second.
Call.
Mr. Stammes,
Yes.
Mr. Favidio,
Yes.
Mrs. Telliar, yes. Ms. Norfleet,
Yes.
Mr. Weeks,
Yes.
Mrs. Archer,
Yes.
Ms. Wade.
Yes. And then they will send out the information to this address. Thank you. Second item on our agenda is 20-800000726, 825 Paradise Boulevard, Joni Cunningham and Jennifer Lawrence. Is anyone here for that case, please?
If you are here for this case, please raise your hand and you'll be allowed in to talk. Mr. Dwyer, this was the phone applicant, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, they are on the Zoom on the phone. I'll see if I can get them to allow them to talk.
Thank you.
Oh, thank God.
Yes, we can hear you. If you can please state your name and address for the record and be sworn in.
My name's Jody Cunningham, 19029 US Highway 19 North, excuse me, Building 7, Apartment 31, Clearwater 33756.
Were you sworn in previously, Jody?
No, ma'am.
Would you raise your right
I
hand?
had my
please?
hand up. Oh, okay. I thought that was it. Okay, I have my right hand up. Still up.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Ms. Cunningham. Do you swear the testimony you're about to give is the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
And can we confirm your relationship to the property, please? Because you're giving a different ad.
I bought that from my mom many, many years ago. Actually, I bought it for my sister, then my mom moved into it. And I do have good news. Now that it's in compliance, I do have a buyer for the property. I was going to move into it and try to take over it myself, but my health isn't the best, and I don't think I have it in me. I have MS, and the person that's buying it, she wants it really bad because
We're gonna
she's losing.
I'm sorry to interrupt. We're going to get to some of that in a second.
Oh, okay.
It's a
Oh,
brief-
okay. I'm sorry. I've never been to one of these. Okay, sorry.
We'll have the city present a case. Then you'll get to ask them questions. Then you'll get to present your case. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much. City's going to start.
Okay.
My name is Beth, City Code Inspector certified by the Florida Association of Code Enforcement. And, oh, I'm sorry. Does she have any objections so we can start passing down the exhibits?
Jody, they're going to show us the evidence. Do you have any objection to that being?
No, ma'am, none at all for anything.
Thank you. Bobby will do so.
Thank you. Okay, this is case number 20-800-00726, 825 Paradise Boulevard, in the name of Joni Cunningham and Jennifer Lawrence. Exhibit 1 includes all the photographs. Exhibit 2 includes all the notices to include notice of violations and notice of hearings. Exhibit 3 are the administration documents to include the case summary, property appraiser, and tax collector records. Exhibit 4 is the affidavit of posting and a copy of the sign. All of the photographs and exhibits that were given to the violator are exact copies of what is being presented to the board. All notices were mailed to the property owner of record as determined by the Pinellas County Property Appraiser and Tax Collector databases. All notice of violations and notice of hearings are sent return receipt requested in first-class mail. Please accept all exhibits into the record as evidence. And we have had contact with the owner by phone and both email. And I'll go ahead and pull up. I just have a couple of pictures. Okay, so basically, this is the picture of the debris that was on the property. We've got this picture and then this one. There was also debris behind the carport. And I think these were the only pictures I took for this case. Okay, so on 12/9/2020, I conducted the initial inspection and there was a large pile of debris on the property. On December 15th of 2020, a notice of violation was mailed and no mail was returned. On December 29th of 2020, a re-inspection was conducted and there was debris in the yard and in the carport. However, it was much better. It wasn't as much as that was in the previous case, but there was still debris present. On January 8th of 2021, I did another re-inspection due to a phone call, and I met Ms. Cunningham at the property. We went over in detail what it meant to be established, and she was informed that this would probably go on the February code board. agenda, and that I would consider moving it to March, depending on the circumstances she had with her tenant. On January 22nd, 2021, the notice of hearing was mailed and returned not deliverable, unable to forward. On January 29th, 2021, the sign was posted and affidavit of posting was signed. On February 10th of 2021 was the final inspection. I had met the tenant at the property, and we had gone over what was going to be required to come into compliance. And I could see in the morning that he had rented a box truck, and even though it wasn't in compliance at that time, it appeared that he was working on it. So I went ahead and went back out later that afternoon, and in fact, all the debris had been cleaned up and the property was in compliance. So I'm only asking that the property be established, and only because we've had multiple cases for the same issue. And so after several of those cases, and I do understand that it's the tenants that are typically leaving the debris, but I was just, my purpose of requesting to establish it is so that the property continually is controlled and the debris does not continue to accumulate. So I'm just asking for this property to be established for City Code 8-52 nuisance prohibitions. And that concludes my testimony.
Jody, the first part of your turn is to ask her questions, and then you'll get to present your case. Do you have any just questions for Beth?
No, ma'am.
Thank you. Do you have any questions for her? I'll get her to present first. Okay, Jody, your turn. You get to present your case.
Okay. I think whenever I got the letters, my mailing address was incorrect on them, which is, I didn't ignore the first few letters because I'm not like that. I knew that I was having problems with tenants. I hired people. I took many loads to the dumpster myself, hired company twice to pick up debris. And I ran out of money, which is why I started doing it myself. I've been trying to evict them the last, 2 months, and they're making it extremely difficult because I wanted to take over and live there and just try to establish there. But this woman has been wanting to buy it, and I've pretty much accepted defeat with my health. For me to try to move in there would be detrimental to my health, and I've decided to go ahead and let it go. We agreed on a price today, and she's moving forward with the title company. And I just want to apologize for everything I've put you guys through. I haven't had a vehicle in months because I buy lemons, and it's just, I apologize. That's not how, I would never. It's just not a lot you can do without a car. And I don't have any help from my sister. She lives across the street and she's probably the one calling you guys. But I don't blame anyone for calling on that because it was just horrible. It does look much better. I did get up there 2 or 3 times this week and got a bunch out before they got the truck for the big stuff. They still are basically refusing to let me. Well, I mean, I don't have the $185 to evict them right now, so it would be a process. I do not have a vehicle that can get me there and back, hopefully, to where I can check on them every day till the final, not check on them, but at least do a drive-by every day until the sale is finalized. Because I don't, is that what I'm supposed to do? Talk like that? Say that?
That sounds good. Thank you. Do you have questions for her?
I don't, thank you.
Anybody on the board have questions? Do you need to summarize?
No, we're just basically asking for it to be established. It is in
Alrighty.
compliance.
Do you feel like you need to summarize? I think we got a good picture of what you're working on and that you're getting it sold. Anything else, Jody?
Could I ask one question?
Absolutely.
Sorry. I know I was supposed to do that before. Now, is it going with the sale of the property, because it's on the code enforcement, will that will that hurt my sale? Will that stop my sale of this?
It should not. At this point, you're in compliance, so we don't expect a penalty to be attached. It's just a
Okay.
warning that it needs to be kept up.
Okay. And I just want to thank everybody for helping me so much through this. I mean, you helped me step by step so I could understand everything. I really appreciate that. I have MS and I get confused sometimes. A lot, actually, not sometimes. So thank you all very much. You're very professional, kind people.
Thank you. Unless anybody, you have a question?
No, I just wanted to make a motion.
Unless anybody has a question, the public portion will be closed. And we'll entertain a motion.
I move based on the testimony, evidence, facts presented in law that at the time of the alleged violation, City Code 8-52 of the code ordinances of the City of Tarpon Springs was in full effect and force. At the time of the notice of violation, the respondent was in violation of said code section. However, they are now in compliance.
Second.
Do you need to summarize for her? Oh, we need a vote, don't we? That would be a
Oh,
good
do
idea.
I third it? Do I do
We're-
that too?
We're going to do a roll call and then we'll summarize for you.
Okay, so I don't say yes or no, or, okay, all right, sorry.
Yes.
I'm quiet. I'm just, sorry.
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Kilgore? Yes. Ms. Norfleet?
Yes.
Mr. Weeks?
Yes.
Mrs. Archer?
Yes.
Ms. Wade?
Yes.
Please
Case
do roll
number
call.
3. Oh, she's going to summarize for you, Jody.
Okay, thank you. Sorry about that. I thought I voted.
The
So,
lawyer's going to
Ms.
explain it to
Cunningham?
you.
Ms. Cunningham, this board has found that you were in violation of City Code 8-52 for nuisance prohibitions, but that since you are in compliance, there is no fine that is being assessed.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate that.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you. Case number 3 has been complied. There are no affidavits of non-compliance. We have affidavits of compliance.
Some of prosecution costs, so
2 with fines, 2 without.
we have to do them separately because of the prosecution costs.
Case number 17-8, 00000096, 438 Riverside Drive. John and Stella Merritt.
I move to accept the affidavit of compliance and to award the city $154 for the cost incurred in prosecuting the case.
I think that's,
I don't think that fine
right
is
one.
attached to that one.
Here you
Can
go.
we confirm, Beth, if there was a fine
Front page.
attached, where there's a line missing on our paperwork
to that first
on
one.
item number 4?
No, there were no prosecution costs. When the affidavit of non-compliance occurred was when they were already charged for prosecution costs.
A number
So-
4, a number
A lot of
4?
them with
Sorry.
prosecution costs.
Yes, so on number 4, the reason there's no prosecution costs is when we did the affidavit of non-compliance a long time ago, they were charged the costs at that time, and we only do it once.
Okay. And we can do this by voice vote?
Yes.
Yes. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Was there a second?
I'm sorry, who was the second? I'm sorry.
Was there a second on that motion?
I have Mr. Weeks.
I thought I heard a second, but sometimes with the masks.
I'll
I'm not-
second it. Go ahead.
All right, Mr. Thank you.
Item number 5, 20-8, 00000023, 645 River Village Drive. It is in compliance. Could I hear a motion, please?
I move to accept the affidavit of compliance and award the city the $154 in prosecution costs.
Second?
Bobby, thank
Thank
you.
you.
Voice vote?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item number 6, 20-8000625, 1639 Seabreeze Drive, Desiree Valencia. Could I hear a motion, please?
I move to accept the affidavit of compliance and to award the city. There's no cost on that one. I just move to accept the affidavit of compliance.
Is there a second?
I do.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Weeks. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Item number 7, case number 20-8000426, 43380 US Highway 19, Robert Sprental Family Trust. Would anyone like to?
I move to accept the affidavit of compliance and to award the city $157.50 for the cost it incurred in prosecuting the case.
I second.
Thank you, Mr. Weeks. Voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Then we have 2 old business items. Anyone here for case number 8, which is item number 19-8000664, 47 West Harpen Avenue, Zoe Co. I'll have the attorney remind us of the rules for fine reduction requests.
Does Tom typically read the whole section?
Just that one passage usually.
What?
There's usually one short passage that he reads.
All I have is for the rules of procedure that states that the board shall make its determination on fine reductions based solely upon the written materials that are presented by the respondent, and that the respondent is appropriately allowed to appear, but the code boards may only to answer any additional questions that the code board members may have. However, they are not to make a statement in their defense.
Thank you. Do you want to present?
Section. Can I ask a question?
Yes, of
Is
course.
there a section associated with what basis we're to make this decision?
It's based solely on the letter. It does indicate that the letter must include conclusive evidence showing extreme or undue hardship in the payment of the fine or a situation which prevented them from bringing the property into compliance within the time period established by the board's order.
Thank you.
Will you repeat that one more time?
Of course. It says that the written materials must include conclusive evidence showing extreme or undue hardship in the payment of the fine or situation which prevented the respondent from bringing the property into compliance within the time period established by the board's order.
Thank you. Does the city have a recommendation additional to what we've been given?
I believe what I wrote is my recommendation. If you have any questions, so I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you. Anybody on the board wish to have a discussion? Could I hear a motion, please?
I'd like to accept the city inspector's recommendations for would be the amount of $3,500 plus prosecution costs of $258, which totals $3,758.
I second.
Thank you. Bobby, roll call, please.
Mr. Stammes,
Yes.
Mr. Porfirio,
Yes.
Mrs. Telliar. Yes. Ms. Norfleet,
Yes.
Mr. Weeks,
Yes.
Mrs. Archer,
Yes.
Wade.
Yes. Do you need to summarize for them that the fine stands in the amount?
Yes, so the fine has been reduced to $3,758. And this fine reduction will occur upon the payment of the stated reduced amount if it's paid within 60 working days of this order. Failing to pay the reduced fine will revert back to the original amount of the fine.
Thank you. Next one is our listed as number 9, another fine reduction request. This was for 17-800000096, 438 Riverside Drive, listed for John and Stella Merritt. I understand Stella Merritt has passed away. And you folks received a pretty thorough packet regarding this property. You ready for a motion, or does anybody have discussion they'd like to make?
And I do believe there are some people here for that one, just so that you're aware.
But can they make a presentation at this point?
Only if the board has any inquiry into anything in the packet, or if you have any questions regarding, otherwise they do not have the right to make a statement.
Do you folks have a question for the owners we understand are present?
I drove by the property and noticed that there's been quite a lot of work done.
Not supposed to be here.
I don't. That's not going to be considered within this application for the fine reduction. The only thing that you're to consider in making your determination is the written materials that have been presented to you.
The evidence that's presented is all we can do. You're not,
Wow.
in our rules, you're not supposed to drive by and look at it yourself because you're not the code inspector.
I'm not a code. Okay. I'm noticing the evidence that was presented to us in the packet that there's some work that's been done on the property. Has it been brought into complete compliance?
It's in compliance. As a matter of fact, y'all accepted the affidavit today.
Okay.
Based on the packet, the ownership of the property is changing hands, correct? It looks like from what is in here that Mr. Merritt selling to Mr. Mugros.
The person that's intending to purchase the property, Mr. Mugros, is here.
Okay.
He is the one that got the property into compliance.
Yeah.
He's here if you have questions, and the attorney for Mr. Merritt is also present by phone. If they do,
Property owner, correct now?
not yet. He's under contract. Well, I probably should let Mr. Mugros answer that question. I believe he's under contract, if I'm correct.
As I understand it, the fine is almost $190,000, $189,860.
Yeah. It's
So
pretty-
which would make it prohibitive for him to buy the house, make the changes.
I see.
So we're
Yeah.
trying to
Right, so he,
reflect that and reduce the fine so that this all can take place and he continued to maintain the property. That's our goal, correct?
so I believe, again, if you want to ask him, I believe he is,
Did I summarize that correctly?
yeah, since he's here, I'd rather let him speak for himself.
He needs to come up and talk on there.
Sir, can you come to
There's
the microphone?
this microphone here will help us all hear you.
And you
Thank
probably
you.
need to be sworn in.
He was sworn in
Oh, I apologize.
previously.
I'm planning on purchasing the property. I went in good faith. I cleaned it up. It was a mess. And I just, hopefully you guys will help and reduce the fines so we can make this happen. And then I just want to beautify the place and then keep it nice and clean from here moving forward. Very simple. But obviously, we can't deal with those. I mean, there's the fines that are on there are just, out of this world.
I understand. Anyone else have a question for him?
Ready for the,
Say a motion or?
If there's no question, then we'll close the public portion and we'll hear a motion.
I move that the fine of $189,860 in case 17-8000096 be reduced to $5,000. The fine reduction will occur upon payment of the stated reduced amount if paid within 60 working days of this order. Failure to pay the reduced fine amount will revert back to the original amount of $189,860.
Roll call, please.
second,
Oh, excuse me, second. And then roll call, please, Bobby.
Mr. Stammes?
Yes.
Mr. Favidio?
Yes.
Mrs. Telliar?
Yes.
Ms. Norfleet?
Yes.
Mr. Weeks?
No.
Archer?
yes,
Ms. Wade?
Yes.
Your motion carries.
She'll summarize for you.
The fine has been reduced to $5,000 and it will occur upon the payment of the stated reduced amount if it's paid within 60 working days of the order. Failing to pay the reduced fine will revert back to the original amount of $189,860.
Thank you.
Wait for a second. Is that all three liens on there? Is that all bulked together?
That's your total. Fine has been reduced to $5,000, but you're on the radar now, so.
But
It'd be-
the attorney would probably be the best one to answer
the
that.
question, the fine reduction request was for a single case number, which was 17-8000096 for that parcel. I don't have any additional information on separate code enforcement cases, but this has been going on since 2017. So I would assume based on what I have here, this is the singular fine that's been running on this property. But I would defer to the code enforcement officer for any additional, that's the only case that we're on here today. And I don't want to assume, but I would do so based on the record that this has been going on since 2017. This is likely the only case that's open.
The other ones aren't as bad as this one, but I'm good with that. I'm good with the $5,000.
And I would ask you to just double check with code enforcement to make sure that there's no other outstanding or currently present fines on the property or occurring fines.
We've been over that before, but I'll get with you, Mr. Mugros, and explain everything to you at the code board.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
No, it's like unheard of. It's so early. I'm checking to see what else we've
Before 3
missed.
o'clock.
Sorry.
No minute.
Happy Valentine's Day.
you want to discuss this?
I'll address that once we get to board comment.
Does anyone have any, we've got our minutes. Do we have minutes to approve?
No,
No.
ma'am.
Does anyone have any old business? New business?
Remarks?
City?
I would just like to address the information that was passed out by Mr. Stamos. While I do truly appreciate your want to go and investigate a matter, I know that Mr. Trask has probably told you this before and it's nothing new to you, but because you sit in a judgmental capacity, what is presented to you at the hearing is all that you are to consider. So while I appreciate that there's been some research done and as to this past case in this specific company, there's been additional information that's been garnered, that information is not to be applied to any future cases. First, because we don't know if that applies to every other corporation that holds rental properties or is a rental property management company. Second, because in your role as a judge, judges don't go out and do independent research. They are there to take in the evidence that's presented to them and to make a determination based solely on that evidence. In this type of a proceeding, it's the respondent's the responsibility, if they have any information like that, to present it to you for your consideration, to refute or to support their position that it wasn't necessarily their fault or they should not suffer such a high fine, that kind of thing. So while I do, again, appreciate it and truly, this type of information is not to be considered, and I would ask if you haven't read it, please don't do so. Let's go ahead and get that information to the clerk so that we can, or back to Mr. Stamos so he can have it. But it's not something that this board needs to consider, nor should it consider in making its future decisions.
So question for you. If there was information that the code enforcement board wasn't aware of, correct? So the case was brought before us, the evidence was given, and we made a judgment based on the information that we had. At that point, that's it. But what happens if what happens when the next case comes in before us and we don't have the information?
That's their job to bring that for us.
Right. It's just like if you were going to go into a court of law, right? As a defendant, you have to present all your evidence to the judge that day. You don't get a second bite at the apple. And what happens in the case before you doesn't inform your case. So your position is very limited. You are here to take in the evidence that's presented both by the code enforcement officer and the respondent, take that evidence, apply it to the law, and make a determination whether or not they're in violation, or based on your criteria for fines or fine reductions, take that in and make a determination. That's it.
How about a public comment? Is that okay? If I had something to say as a
No,
citizen?
because you are not a member of the public, you are a member of the code enforcement board.
But how about at the BOC? Am I allowed to make a public comment there?
You can act in your individual capacity and appear at a board of commission meeting and make any public comment that you would like to do so.
Fair enough.
But you can't represent yourself as a member of the code
No.
board.
Right. I
Right.
can represent myself as a
You
citizen.
can only represent yourself as an individual. And I will tell you that if you are asking, and maybe I'm opening a can of worms here, if you're going to be asking the Board of Commissioners to consider that there should be additional evidence that's to be considered, that's a matter of law. And that's not necessarily for the commission, even though they are the legislative body of the city of Tarpon Springs. There is precedent before them, and that is not necessarily something they would be able to change.
I'm asking you if I can go in front of the Board of Commissioners and present something as a citizen of Tarpon Springs.
Of course,
Thank you.
of course.
And may I have one thing to say? If you're done, I'm sorry.
I am finished.
I failed to introduce Sergeant Miller as my new supervisor. Sergeant Fogno is in a different role, and Sergeant Miller is now my new supervisor. And he's teaching me to speak only in bullet points. So this is my new supervisor. I'm done.
Thank you. Welcome. Anybody else?
I have a comment.
Wonderful.
It seems to me as though that it's real easy to get a reduction if you're on the right part of town, okay? I haven't seen one come in that is from a lower economic status where we have provided them any reductions.
I think we did a few, and I know we had one last meeting. I know you weren't
Or you
here,
might have.
but
But my point is that if something has been taking since 2017 to get done, and we've spent time and money continuously on this particular issue, why is it that we give it up? That we don't enforce what we've said we are going to enforce? Why the reductions, and why are they so absolutely astounding? 189,000 to 5,000? That just doesn't seem right to me.
I hear your concerns.
If I might. So the purpose of the code enforcement board or any code enforcement arm of the city is to garner compliance. So I'm not here to comment on your decisions because those are based on the criteria that's in your fine reduction
Right.
procedures and what is presented to you in writing. So ultimately, that's going to be a board decision. But what I will say is from a legal perspective, that if the purpose of the code enforcement board is to garner compliance and the property comes into compliance, then the punitive portion of the fines,
Stop.
right, it does stop, but if you are going to continue to get future code enforcement violations because that party, based on the hardship they've presented to you, if it's sufficient enough, is not able to upkeep that property, you're going to just garner more and more fines. And you may not necessarily get compliance in the future. So the broader scope is if you're getting compliance and moving towards somebody or something else that is able to adhere to the compliance and it won't be a problem in the future, that's fine. A lot of these cases are going to be older cases, and sometimes that's because the city is working with the property owner to try and get them in compliance. They have extenuating circumstances. My understanding is that was this particular case and is the ones that I've seen come before this board in the past and other boards, that's usually what it is.
And there's
I don't know
always,
if that's helpful.
there's always the chance that the BOC will overdo. There was a recent case that we voted and the board quashed the fine that we did and agreed to a lower one. So we're not the ultimate authority anyway. Go ahead.
Before we vote, the chairman always asks if anyone has anything to say about that particular item. And if you're against it, maybe it'd be your chance, anyone's chance to explain why you feel that way, because that might make us think, oh, we hadn't thought about what you've said, and we would vote accordingly. So I think that's a good idea to kind of explain yourself a little bit more, because we don't know why you're voting no or.
Right.
And if I didn't give you time enough, I apologize. I thought you said no, but it's a good point, and we should remember to check with each other, make sure that we think we understand the issues. So that's a really good point to make. Thank you. Anybody else?
I would just say, you have to base everything on the facts of the case, not feelings. It's facts over feelings.
Right.
That's what we have to work on. And to make any type of assertion that there's something biased or from, if there's facts, that's fine. We can say, this doesn't work, but you can't say my observations. No, it's got to be, we have to have data. We have to have the
I
facts.
understand that.
So remember, facts over feelings. Thank you.
This wasn't a feeling. This was a statement. This was a concern.
Right, but the
If a
thing is, when you
person is a
present it in a
medical
forum
doctor
like this, it can be
trying to
perceived.
get a sorry.
I understand. It's a good point. We will make sure we reflect on that. If there's no further business, it's not even 3 o'clock. This is a record thing.
Yeah.
Meeting's adjourned.
Here's the stuff to shred, okay?
Oh, sure, I'll take it.